Well, hello and a very, very warm welcome to Silverstone for the second race of the third round of the 2015 León Eurocup. This is going to be the sixth encounter of the season around the home of the British Grand Prix, the 3-mile challenge of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. And we have got 11 laps or 40 minutes of action to look forward to. It's a glorious day here in the borders between Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire. Temperature just about nudging 20 degrees, and it is a home driver in pole position, Johnny Cocker. His first weekend racing front-wheel drive cars. Johnny, better known for his exploits in various international GT racing, making a fine debut in the León Eurocup. Second on the grid is Jordi Oriola, the 18-year-old Spaniard in the Target competition car. This, of course, the grid with the top cars from qualifying reversed, which always makes things entertaining. Third on the grid then is Manuel João, Portuguese driver, his first points finish of the season yesterday with 5th place after that disastrous weekend in Estoril. Fourth on the grid, and it's another home driver. This is the former Clio Cup racer, Alexander Morgan, in the Vapouro Motorsport car. And Morgan, who's been in great form so far this season, will be looking to get a home podium finish and build on that solid result he had yesterday of 4th place. 5th on the grid for Julien Brichet. Brichet muted in the first race of the weekend, sliding down to 7th. Mikel Ascona, meanwhile, who lines up in 6th, was back on the rostrum for the second time this season yesterday with a fine 3rd place, and he is more than ready for the action to get underway. Championship leader Paul Rosell was runner-up yesterday, and Rosell continuing his remarkable run of podium finishes that he's had so far in 2015. It's been 5 on the bounce. Will he make it 6 from 6? And then lining up in 8th place, it is Stian Poulsen, and Poulsen, who won the race and did so with some style. And that was enough to bring him up to 2nd in the championship standings. Lining up in 9th place, it's Mario de Blanda. De Blanda, who was very impressive in Estoril, slightly less impressive yesterday. He slipped down the order a little bit, eventually finishing in 12th place. 10th on the grid for Lucille Cipriano, who was our Lady Driver Trophy winner yesterday en route to an 11th place finish, was in the mix in a very, very intense battle for the lower places in the top 10. It's the 11th for Lourenco Beirao de Viega, but Beirao de Viega fighting his way up the pack into 9th place, just outside the points as the grid begins to be cleared. We'll look at how they line up in full with Johnny Cocker and Jordi Oriola on the front row. Then it's Manuel João and Alex Morgan, row 2. Julien Brichet and Mikel Ascona complete the top 6. Row 4, Paul Rosell and Stian Poulsen. How far up the order can they both come? Then Mario de Blanda and Lucille Cipriano from Lourenco Beirao de Viega and Zsolt David Szabo. The Hungarian was in feisty mood. Mauricio Hernandez has had 3 retirements on the bounce. He'll be desperate to do something from 14th on the grid, just clear of his target teammate Jürgen Schmal. Then it's Fran Rueda, twice a winner in the reverse grid race so far this year, but from 16th, that feels like it will be a very tall order. Andrina Guga lines up 19th, and it's Dejan Balatovic who completes the top 10, clear of Stefano Zanini and Marco Pellegrini. Then it's Dominic Fetka and Jean-Laurent Navarro on row 12, ahead of Clément Mathieu, Mladen Laluzic, with Mari Bauskas-Pens and Finlay Crocker rounding out the gigantic 28-car field. So away they go now on the green flag formation lap. Their last opportunity to get a sense of how the Silverstone circuit has changed since yesterday's race. And the reverse grid race always gives us plenty of entertainment. The first 2 that we've had this year in Paul Ricard and Estoril, really incredibly intense dices. And I'm sure that the next 11 laps or so will be equally entertaining as the field heading through the Beckett's complex now. Of course, will home advantage come to the fore here? Johnny Cocker knows this place very well from his GT racing exploits, and the same for Alexander Morgan from Clio Cup and Formula Renault 2 litre days, as the field just getting a little bit of heat into their Yokohama tyres, as there is Thibaut Morg one of the JSB competition cars. A little bit lower down the field, so Johnny Cocker lines up in pole. Jordi Oriola alongside him. This is a golden opportunity, though, for that third place car. Last year's championship runner-up, Manuel João, to get himself back on to the podium. He's had a wretched start to the year, has João, but the 43-year-old could find himself on the rostrum. For Mikel Lascona, Paul Rosell and Stian Poulsen, they've got plenty of cars to pass if they want to figure on the rostrum. But we have certainly seen, in the case of Rosell, that he is more than capable of doing that. Because the key to this reverse grid race is patience. It's not all won at the first corner, but it can be lost at the first turn. Whereas what we saw, particularly in Estoril, was that Rosell bade his time and then waited to carve through. And there is Rosell, the white car with the blue bonnet, the all-white machine of Stian Poulsen. And Poulsen, interestingly, immediately after the race yesterday, in his interview, was basically expressing frustration about his setup and how that he could have got the car working a little bit better over the race duration. And so he'll have been fixing some things overnight in the hope of slightly stronger performance today, at least in terms of pace and the consistency of the pace through the 11 laps. So the field just taking their time on this formation lap, because some of them will have kept a set of tyres back for this race especially and don't want to get the heating cycle wrong, and others may be running on scrub tyres and therefore will be fully focused on preservation. They're just turning now through Village, which is one of the principal overtaking opportunities on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. A heavy braking zone into the loop, and then they head onto this section of the track, the Wellington Straight, which brings them to another potential passing place in terms of the left-hand sweep at Brooklands that brings them towards the end of the lap. Of course, in the South León Eurocup, it is a standing start, so it's going to be the red and white car of Johnny Cocker up in pole position. Alongside him on the front row of the grid will be Jordi Oriola, who finished 9th in last year's championship and is still in pursuit of his first Seat León Eurocup podium. His best result last year was 4th place at the Salzburg Ring. And then Manuel João chasing a first podium of the season. And likewise for Alex Morgan, he has had a career best result of 4th. That was yesterday, but has been fighting for the podium more often than not already in this Seat León Eurocup campaign. So the cars coming to the end of what was a reasonably stately formation lap from Johnny Cocker. He now just takes the opportunity to have a little bit of a practice start, warm up those Yokohama tyres as we get ready for the start with a standing start here at Silverstone. Because it's such a short run to Copse Corner, in fact, what we have is that as we look at the picture, the right-hand side of the picture is pole position, even though it's not the inside line for Copse, but it's the cleaner side of the track, and it's actually for the optimal racing line into Copse. Then the left-hand side of your picture, as you see it, the white car with the green and black bonnet, that is Jordi Oriola. And then on row 2, the green and orange car is Manuel João. The black and white car is Alex Morgan. They are the ones we'd expect to see challenging for the lead, at least into Copse Corner, as the back of the field about to roll into place. Now the heat haze shimmers off the cars. It's a beautiful day for motorsport here at Silverstone, and this will be a very exciting 11 laps from the Seat León Eurocup. Marie Balskopens comes to a halt, so we look for the 5-second board to be shown to the drivers. It is now the eyes to the gantry as the red lights come on, the revs rise. So long hold, away we go. It's a brilliant start from Mario de Blanda, a little bit further back down the pack, but it's Johnny Cocker who has eased away from the line. He is going to lead into Copse Corner from Morgan in 2nd place, Oriola 3rd, and then it's Manuel João in 4th as they all run wide, coming out of Copse and sprinting on towards Beckett's. Crucially though, they're cleanly through the first turn, and Cocker's got the advantage from Oriola, who's back ahead of Morgan. Then it is João from Mikel Lascona, Julien Brichet, Paul Rosell, Mario de Blanda and Stian Poulsen. It's Thibaut Morg taking a trip across the tarmac runoff as they kick up the dust at Chapel Curve and head down the hanger straight for the first time. And this is where the slipstream effect comes into play. As Cocker's got the advantage from Oriola, a challenge further back. That was Lascona looking to the inside of Jiao, as also Stian Poulsen tries to challenge around the outside of Mario de Blanda. Got one car that ran very wide as Cocker comes under pressure from Oriola and Morgan to lead the race, and Jordi Oriola may be able to force himself to the inside of Johnny Cocker. Oh, and there's contact, and Cocker gets tapped out wide by Oriola. It gives Alex Morgan the chance to challenge, and Morgan may well have squeezed past Oriola. Indeed he does. Johnny Cocker somehow maintains the lead, with Skona lurking in fourth. Brichet is fifth. Frenetic opening lap as Skona runs wide at Abbey. And the sun glinting off the windscreens as they fan out 2 or 3 wide on the brakes into Village. It all gets very congested as Stian Poulsen in the midfield looking to move clear of Paul Rosell. That could be key in the championship fight. There's the white car of Poulsen, and he has picked his way past Paul Rosell, with then Mario de Blanda trying to follow through that gap. Down the Wellington straight then, and it is Cocker who leads in car 8 from Alex Morgan. Then we've got Oriola, Michele Ascona, the bright blue car of Julien Brichet, and contact between Poulsen and Rosell. The 2 championship rivals tangle, and it's Paul Rosell who comes off second best, but there is damage potentially to Stian Poulsen's car as Rosell jumps back onto the track. So I don't think either car is out of the race, but both of them are out of the running in terms of the points challenge as Cocker and Morgan turn through Copse Corner. It's a little bit of damage to the car of Mario de Blanda. There is Stian Poulsen, who came across the line in 12th position and is possibly about to lose out to Fran Rueda as they turn their way through Maggots and then jinking through Beckett's as Julien Brichet to the inside of Michele Ascona. Skona pushed out wide. Again, the dust gets kicked up as down the hanger straight we go. Johnny Cocker still leads from Morgan. Behind, frantic stuff, Jiao looking one way, then the other, trying to overhaul the Skona. And all of them tucked up behind Julien Brichet in the fight for fourth. And it's now allowing that leading trio just to begin to build a bit of a buffer. So now the 2 British drivers, the form of Cocker and Morgan, try to make this a home victory as being fired off sideways. I think that was Lucille Cipriano, and contact possibly with Fran Rueda. Can't quite see from there, but it would appear that that was possibly Rueda who got caught up. Find out whether or not that car comes through the second sector. Meanwhile, Cocker leading from the front as Jordi Oriola gets on the brakes, trying to pressurise Alexander Morgan. Paul Rosell came across the line in 21st position, as there is Mauricio Hernandez down to 9th place in his battle with Lourenco Bierau de Viega. Zolt Sabo pushed out wide. That allows Michael Zemp to power past him, and so it was Fran Rueda who was left stricken over on the entrance to club, hopefully not provoking the use of a safety car. So the corner marker is the casualty at Brooklands. There is Thibaut Morg, the white and gold car, in pursuit of Mario de Blanda, as Johnny Cocker is looking reasonably comfortable at the moment in command of the race. Across the line he comes, the end of lap 2. And here is a look at a big spin, and that is the car of Mladen Laluzic, who lost it. And then what about, well, that's the first lap, isn't it, with Cocker and Oriola. We just caught the end of it. And there was another problem. That was Jean-Laurent Navarro. There was the contact between Stian Poulsen and Paul Rosell. Didn't quite see the start of it, but both will be frustrated because it's cost them a lot of time and pitched them out of the points challenge. In fact, Stian Poulsen in 11th place, and then there was the moment for Lucille Cipriano and Fran Rueda. Meanwhile, we return to the action, and Cocker being chased down by Alex Morgan. It's now Julien Brichet in third. He has found a way around Jordi Oriola. There is the vacated car of Fran Rueda, so they've got to be careful here. They run a little bit close to the margins. We've got the JCB ready to recover as the field jinked through, so we shouldn't have the safety car being scrambled, which is the good news, as the cavalry charge heads through farm. Cocker absorbing the pressure that's being thrown his way. And this is an interesting race in terms of the fact that, with the exception of Michael Ascona, none of our championship protagonists are at the sharp end of the field. Although for Alex Morgan, this could be the opportunity for Morgan to drive himself towards the contention for the championship, particularly going into a strong second half of the season. So down the Wellington Straight once more. Mario Dablanda, body worker flapping with in close pursuit. That's Lourenco Beirao de Viega. They've got Thibaut Morg just ahead of them. So this is 7th, 8th and 9th place as Beirao finds a way to the inside of Dablanda and snatches the place from the Austrian driver. We've got a drive-through penalty as well for Mario Dablanda for a full start. So the Austrian driver will be somewhat frustrated with that, as Johnny Cocker has done a pretty good job here of almost beginning to drive away from Alex Morgan. Morgan has got Julien Brichet to concern himself with in third. That's the blue car. Then we've got the green and black machine of Jordi Oriola. Michael Ascona it is next along, as they head through Beckett's and accelerate on to the Hangar Straight. And Morgan will be hoping to use the slipstream to come back at Cocker, but Cocker just sticking to what he needs to do. He's making it very hard for the rest of them to get into contention. There's now Stian Poulsen looks to the inside, Mario Dablanda, and Poulsen is able to ease past, heading into Stowe. And that promotes Stian Poulsen to 9th position. Another place gained, and he'll be back into the points. Well, that's ominous news for both Cocker and Morgan. Julien Brichet setting the fastest lap of the race, and therefore closing up onto the leading group of cars. The recovery has been concluded of Fran Rueda's car, so they're free to race through the Vale again. So this train of cars all the way back to Manuel João in 6th position, pretty much running as one. You wouldn't say that Cocker is the cork in the bottle, but with the slipstream effect, he's not really been able to break the toe, because barring one or two tiny setup tweaks, these South León Eurocup cars are to all intents and purposes absolutely identical. As now out of the loop through Aintree, Wellington Straight time for Cocker. He looks in his mirror. There is Morgan and Brichet and Oriola, then Ascona and João. And we're still in the reasonably early stages. This is going to conclude lap 4 of 11, so just over 1/3 race distance. And for Johnny Cocker, of course, the performance of the Yokohama tyre is possibly the unknown here. He had that race yesterday, and then leading from the front today, he won't want to overexert the tyre, whereas those behind him have all been racing throughout the season in the South León Eurocup. They know how the car is going to perform over the course of the race duration, as Morgan just begins to apply the pressure. So that leading septet now well clear the rest of the field. Paul Rosell, by the way, championship leader, marooned in 16th place, so it is looking very unlikely that it's going to be 6 podiums in 6 races for Rosell. Stian Poulsen, meanwhile, has found a way past Lourenco Beirao de Viega. He is up into 8th place as a result, and that is another point in the championship in his favour. Down the Hangar Straight, Morgan just beginning to think about pressurising Johnny Cocker. So they head through the right-hander at Stowe, feeding downhill into the Vale. So it's the Wolf racing car of Johnny Cocker, the Wolf Power racing car, that leads the way from the Vaporo entry of Alex Morgan. Then we've got the JSB car of Julien Brichet, Jordi Oriola next along for Target, and then Michael Ascona for PCR. Great race this. The leading 6 of them have really built this back gap over Thibaut Morg and Stian Poulsen. And smart tactical driving as well. Everybody back to, and including Manuel João, they're just content at the moment to run in this train and work together to try and build the buffer over the rest of the field. But Cocker has an excellent run through Village and the Loop. He just begins to open up a little bit of daylight over Alexander Morgan once more, as they run out over the curbs, embarking on another trip down the Wellington Straight. And this has been a really impressive lap from Johnny Cocker. What he's just trying to do is begin to just break the will of those behind. If you remorselessly set laps at a high tempo, those behind might start to begin to make the mistakes. As here is a bit of a look at Andrina Guga and Stefano Zanini. And Zanini getting a fairly hefty whack from Guga as they turn through club. And physics takes over thereafter. Around goes Zanini. As Skoner and Xiao just beginning to slip away from this leading group. They're busy now disputing 5th place between themselves. That's good news for Jordi Uriola. It releases him to not have to worry about what's going on in his mirrors quite as much as they propel on to the Hangar Straight. We are almost exactly a half race distance. We will be probably by the time they arrive into the Vale. As Brichet defends from Uriola, we've got plenty of track limit warning flags being displayed. And of the leading group of cars, it's Jordi Uriola who's probably got to be the most mindful. And as Brichet and Uriola battle, it then becomes Cocker and Morgan, who just get a little bit of daylight over those behind. There's a change for 5th. Manuel Xiao is through past Toscona, and Stian Poulsen has also passed Thibaut Morg. So Poulsen to 7th, Xiao to 5th. And for Stian Poulsen, chipping away all the while at Paul Rozel's championship lead. We have had no change really in the lead of the race. It's been Johnny Cocker all the way, but he has had this train of cars right behind him ever since the race got underway. He's hardly had a moment's relaxation, but Johnny, with his experience in GT racing, is used to absorbing this kind of pressure, this kind of tension as the race unfolds. He just knows that if he sticks to doing his job, then that will make it very hard for those behind to make too much progress, because as soon as you start to drive defensively, take defensive racing lines, that is when those behind are able to close the gaps down really quickly. And then it suddenly becomes a little bit more difficult to maintain your rhythm as well. So we are coming to the end of lap 6 of 11 here at Silverstone. This is the 6th race of the Seat León Eurocup season. It's Johnny Cocker who leads from Alex Morgan. In 3rd place, it's Julien Brichet. 4th, Jordi Uriola. 5th is Manuel Xiao. And 6th, Michael Ascona. 7th, Stian Poulsen. And it's Thibaut Morg in 8th. And the last of the points-paying places. Headlights ablaze from Cocker as he hurtles through Beckett's. Morgan running in pursuit behind him. Then there's a little bit of daylight now between Alex Morgan and Julien Brichet, with Jordi Uriola still in 4th. Meanwhile, a little bit lower down the field, and that is Michael Zemp, so David Sabo. They're just ahead of Paul Rozel. Back to the live pictures, and Brichet again defending from Jordi Uriola as they arrive into Stowe. Now, as that battle comes together, it will bring Manuel Xiao into the mix as Brichet runs wide. Uriola scents blood. He looks the inside on the brakes into the Vale, and Uriola may well go through and take 3rd place. Indeed he does. But can he hold it? Yes, he can. It's just a question of whether or not he runs out wide through club. He doesn't, and Julien Brichet shuffled off the podium. But as Uriola and Brichet battle, it releases Morgan and Cocker at the front of the field. It also brings Manuel Xiao into the fight as well. We turn through Abbey. Uriola, as we said at the top of the show, still looking for his maiden Seat León Eurocup podium. Manuel Xiao and Julien Brichet, plenty of experience in that department. Here's another look at the move. Classic Silverstone pass, really. Uriola on the brakes into the Vale. Crucially, even though he missed the apex, got the car stopped in time to claim the inside line for club, and that thwarts Julien Brichet's efforts of retaliation. And so Brichet can't find a way back past. Now Brichet is being challenged by Manuel Xiao, and this is a little bit what happened yesterday, in that Brichet just began to fade as the race moved towards its closing stages. Brichet's also picked up a warning flag for not obeying the track limits. as we get a drive-through penalty for Andrina Guga. According to the timing screen, well, that is no surprise after that collision with Stefano Zanini. Michael Lascona, another driver who's just picked up a track limits warning flag, promptly runs very wide through Kopp's corner as he is caught by Stian Poulsen. And Poulsen steadily carving his way up the order. Beginning to run out of laps now. We've got just 4 remaining, including the one we're on. There's the confirmation of Andrina Guga's drive-through penalty. And still it is Johnny Cocker who leads the way. It remains Alex Morgan in second place from Jordi Oriola. Julien Brichet now at threat from Manuel João, and João looks to the inside into Stowe, and he's going to try and force his way past. Brichet looks to close the door and actually manages to do so, because it looked from certainly the camera angle as if João was more than alongside. Meanwhile, the Lascona has been comprehensively caught by Stian Poulsen. There is Poulsen, tucked up right behind the bumper of Michael Lascona as the leading group of cars accelerate onward towards Abbey. That leading group of 7 now well clear of Thibaut Morg in 8th place. Stian Poulsen flashing his headlights frantically at Michael Lascona. I think what Stian Poulsen would feel is if he can get past Lascona, he could probably latch himself onto that leading group really quite quickly. Lascona, in the end, doesn't fight it too vigorously through Village, so Poulsen goes past Lascona, gains another place. That puts Stian Poulsen into 6th position. His next target is Manuel João in 5th. He's going to have 3 laps and change to possibly claim the place. Here's another look at it. On the brakes into Village. Lascona was braking pretty deeply anyway. It's a replay of Madame Laluzic having another little bit of an adventure. Should regain the track without any harm. That was through Club. Oh, and this is Manuel João running very wide on the exit of Brooklands, and so that is going to promote Stian Poulsen to 5th position, I would presume. Manuel João cutting the corner pretty short. Let's see. Indeed, it also promotes Michael Lascona, and João's wretched season continuing as he comes across the line in 12th, but he ducks into the pit. So Manuel João, from 6 races, only 1 points finish, and for a driver who won twice last year, was in the hunt for the title all the way through to the end of the campaign. That is very bad news. So Cocker continues to lead from the front from Alex Morgan and Jordi Oriola. 4th place is Julien Brichet. Brichet not dropping back from Oriola just yet, so he could potentially bring himself up towards the podium. In terms of the Lady Drivers' Trophy, that's currently in favour of Lucille Cipriano in 10th place. She's got a reasonably comfortable buffer over Dina Bus, who's in the group of cars behind. There is Mauricio Hernandez. Hernandez will just be pleased not to have been an early casualty of other people's incidents. As through Abbey again, it is Cocker from Morgan, and Morgan just tips it a little bit sideways at Abbey. You can see how hard he's pushing to try and get back onto terms with Johnny Cocker. But Cocker's lead now out to about 1.5 seconds. As they negotiate the loop, Morgan's also going to be mindful of the progress of both Oriola and Brichet, and if they start battling with each other, then we have got the very hard charging Stian Poulsen. There is Poulsen, the white 34 car, beginning to close into them as well. Braking to Brooklands. The gap from 2nd to 3rd just closes down again. And maybe Oriola's kept a little bit of life in his tyres for these last 2 laps. So 6 miles of racing remaining here at Silverstone. It's looking very good for Johnny Cocker at the moment to convert that pole position to victory, with Morgan set fair for his first set León Eurocup podium, and the same for Jordi Oriola, with then Julien Brichet 4th, but being caught to the tune of 0.6 of a second last time around by Stian Poulsen. Poulsen's still got about a second or so to make up on Julien Brichet. And Brichet was skittering a little bit wide through Beckett's, then he gathered up and stays on the island, but you can see the drivers beginning to ask questions that maybe the tyres don't want to answer. So they head along the hanger straight for the 10th time. Michael Ascona in 6th, dropping away Thibaut Morg and Lorenzo Bierau de Viega, concluding the top 8 from Lucille Cipriano and Mauricio Hernandez. There's now Oriola really beginning to mount the challenge to Morgan. It was coming onto the brakes into the Vale a couple of laps ago where Oriola overhauled Brichet. He's not quite near enough to Brichet this time through. So they head out of clubs. On to Abbey and Oriola, bringing the gap down as they negotiate farm and then head towards the braking zone, and Morgan just snatches a break, almost runs on a little bit wide. Oriola therefore looks to try and pounce. He can't do it through the loop. The car's balancing up onto 3 wheels as then Brichet picks up the throttle as well in 4th. Just a lap and change remaining here in the 6th race of the Seat León Eurocup season at Silverstone. Johnny Cocker leads, as he has done since the start of the race. The drama in the last lap, though, is most likely to come for the fight for second, as Morgan remains under sustained pressure from Jordi Oriola, with Julien Brichet and Stian Poulsen running along behind them as Oriola flashes his headlights at Morgan. I don't think Morgan really needs a reminder of Oriola's presence. As they go into the last lap, you can see the marbles that have been laid down through the course of the weekend here at Silverstone. There's a big, powerful cars in competition. As Cocker leads into Maggots, Oriola will be looking to get that good run, steady run through Beckett's onto the hanger straight. The same goes as well for Stian Poulsen. He may, just on this final lap, be able to snatch 4th place from Julien Brichet as they head out of Chapel Curve and down the hanger straight for the final time. And Oriola settling into the slipstream behind Morgan. He's not going to be close enough to challenge into Stowe, however. And the same goes for Stian Poulsen, but it's the exit from Stowe where Oriola has been so impressive during the race thus far. But again, he's a car length adrift from Morgan, and that feels like it's too far. Oriola concurs, so they follow through as a train. They've got half a lap remaining in this fight for second, third. And if they start tangling, then it becomes second, third, fourth and fifth very quickly. Cocker, though, is just that couple of car lengths clear that he needs as they negotiate Abbey and then propel on through Farm. Now, this is key, the exit from Farm. Morgan gets the car perfectly steady, but he then snatches the brake. He can afford to because he still hits the apex at Village. So it's just the loop remaining. There is the race leader, Johnny Cocker for Wolf Power Racing, as Cocker accelerates down the Wellington Straight for the final time. This has been an incredibly impressive performance from Johnny Cocker. He has led it from the front and just by a 1/10 of a second, upon a 1/10 of a second, has built up the margin over those behind, as now Oriola closes onto terms with Alex Morgan as they head around Brooklands, and then it's Luffield, and Oriola can't make the move, but it's still going to be his maiden Eurocup podium. The same for Morgan, but accelerating through Woodcote, Johnny Cocker on his debut weekend in the Seat León Eurocup takes victory in front of his home fans at Silverstone for Wolf Power Racing. Second place goes to Alex Morgan, and third to Jordi Oriola, with 4th to Julien Brichet, 5th and helpful points to Stian Poulsen, 6th to Michael Ascona, 7th to Thibaut Morg, and Lucille Cipriano wins the Lady Drivers' Trophy with 8th place overall. The early entanglement for Paul Rosell leaves him only able to recover up into 12th position. An intriguing and tense race then, with it coming down to the tiniest of margins. But Johnny Cocker withstanding the pressure in the early stages, building that little buffer as we hit 2/3 race distance, and that has been sufficient to see him carried through to victory. So Cocker receiving the applause of the fans as the pack head on towards Parc Ferme. The Seat León Eurocup next in action on the 4th and 5th of July around the Red Bull Ring. Of course, we'll be bringing you coverage of all those races. So here's a look then at the final results. Cocker wins it from Alexander Morgan, a British 1-2 in the home event. And Jordi Oriola in third from Julien Brichet, Stian Poulsen and Mikel Ascona. Brichet also setting the fastest lap of the race. Great to see Mauricio Hernandez back into the top 10. And he finishes ahead of Jürgen Schmal. And then Paul Rosell, championship leader outside of the points for the first time this year, in 12th place ahead of Zsolt David Szabo and Michael Zemp. Dieter Buss in 15th from Dejan Balatovic and Marco Pellegrini. Maribel Coppens, very good job from the very back of the grid to finish in 18th. And Finlay Crocker also gaining several places. Just the two retirements in the form of Manuel João. His wretched year continues. And Fran Rueda, who was involved in contact early on. So in terms of the championship, well, there you have it. Paul Rosell now just 2 points clear of Stian Poulsen with 8 races remaining. Mikel Ascona still very much in the mix in third. Julien Brichet, Fran Rueda and Alex Morgan, all probably not to be discounted as the season is still yet young. So we will shortly be hearing from our race winner, Johnny Cocker, in Parc Ferme as he takes his time to head back to the paddock area. And Cocker jumping into the car this weekend. It's the first time he's raced a front-wheel drive car and adapting to it extremely quickly. He was in the mix throughout yesterday's race, but then with the opportunity to start from pole in the reverse grid, Cocker was just able to break away as the race got going. And thereafter, although he was under pressure, he wasn't really challenged, as he acknowledges the thanks of Wolf Power teammate Michael Zemp. Well, the Red Bull Ring, the next stop will be a very different challenge for the Seat León Eurocup runners, and from there it will be the summer break and on to the Nürburgring, Monza and then the Circuit to Catalunya to once more conclude the 2015 season. But so far it has been an excellent year of racing, some very, very close on-track battles and a championship fight which is really beginning to come to the boil. So for Alex Morgan, his first podium in the Seat León Eurocup. Not quite the win that he may have hoped for, but nonetheless a fine drive. The Baporo mechanic is there with the water. He receives the congratulations of the team of well-wishers. A rousing greeting for Johnny Cocker and also for Jordi Oriola. Oriola's first podium in the competition. Thumbs up from Cocker. And there is Oriola being absolutely mobbed by the target team. It's been a long time coming, that first rostrum, but a really matured performance from the teenage Spaniard to earn himself the trip to the Silverstone podium. So congratulations all around, and in a couple of moments' time we'll be able to head down to Parc Ferme to hear from our race winner, Johnny Cocker, before we see the drivers up onto the rostrum. Don't forget to visit the Seat Sport website, www.seat-sport.com, for all of the news and information about the Seat León Eurocup during the brief interval that we have before we go racing again at the Red Bull Ring. As you can see from the super slow motion replays, there was never any daylight between the leading group of cars throughout the course of the 11 laps. But as hard as Oriola and Morgan tried, they just couldn't quite get themselves into position to threaten Cocker. Cocker at the same time, a super consistent and precise performance with no errors whatsoever. Didn't give a chink of daylight for those behind to start challenging.
Jonathan, tell us this race, and it was a really good way to to get your first race here in the Seat León Eurocup?
No, it was excellent. I mean, you know, we had a tough job. You know, the qualifying yesterday was not so good, but we knew we had the pace in the race, and you know, just kind of pushing from the start really to try and get the car, you know, out in the lead and you know, out of trouble and hopefully away from any fighting. So the race couldn't have really gone much better. Well done to everybody at Wolf Power. Fantastic result. Yeah, it couldn't have been much better really.
From now on, which are your plans?
We'll have to see. I mean, this was a one-off round. It's my home circuit, and the team, you know, were keen to kind of get some help in and see where things could be. And but who knows? After today, maybe we'll see more of me.
Hope you can stay, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So very happy Johnny Cocker, and this is how he did it. Starting from pole position, breaking away from Oriola as they charged towards Copse for the first time. And then Morgan looking to also sneak ahead of Oriola as they headed up towards Beckett's. Oriola then slightly ambitiously tried to challenge Cocker through club. They almost made contact as they were tipped wide behind. Spin for Jean-Laurent Navarro. That, a big talking point of the race. Contact between the two title contenders, Stian Poulsen and Rosell. Stian Poulsen recovering very well, whilst Paul Rosell, unfortunately, was marooned a little bit lower down the pack. Andrina Guga and Stefano Zanini got tangled up mid-race, and that was sufficient to earn Guga a drive-through penalty. Stian Poulsen, as only he knows best, driving with a bit between his teeth as he clambered up through the order. But for Johnny Cocker, it was a lights-to-flag victory, and in a one-off appearance so far in the Seat León Eurocup, it was the perfect conclusion to the weekend as he was able to lead all the way through from pole position, lights-to-flag win, and a debut Seat León Eurocup victory for Wolf Power Racing. So into third place for Jordi Oriola, his first visit to the rostrum in a year and a half of competition in the Seat León Eurocup. The same for Alex Morgan, his first podium in front of home crowd. And then for Johnny Cocker, underlining the class that he has shown throughout his GT racing career, immediately on the pace in the Seat León Eurocup, and he takes the win with Lucille Cipriano doing the double in the Lady Drivers Trophy this weekend. And an excellent drive from Lucille Cipriano to claim 8th place. The British National Anthem in honour of Johnny Cocker, winner of the 6th race of the season in the Seat León Eurocup. So we move on to the presentation of the trophies. So first of all, Jordi Oriola in 3rd place. For Alex Morgan in 2nd place, and one of the very nice characteristics of the Seat León Eurocup is it's the team managers of the drivers on the podium who do the presentation of the trophies. So for Wolf Power Racing, Johnny Cocker, victory for Cocker, and then Lucille Cipriano, 2 wins this weekend in the Lady Drivers Trophy, and she is a regular now in the points. So the drivers about to pose for the photos on the podium here at Silverstone, and then it will be time to make merry with the bubbly. And in turn, that means for myself, Ben Evans, thank you very much for joining us this weekend for the Seat León Eurocup here in Silverstone. We are next in action on the 4th and 5th of July at the Red Bull Ring. We very much hope that you'll join us there.
So, drivers, please. Drivers,
Johnny.
just go with me for a
Laura needs you for an interview.
Okay, so we go.
No, that's it.